Hi guys and welcome to Crime Doc. I'm Gemma and you are in the right place because today we are talking about Manuela Gonzalez, who is currently in prison for the murder of her husband, Daniel Cano. But why? Well, before her husband Daniel was murdered, there was a string of other men in her life that mysteriously fell ill. But until this day, she remains adamant that she is innocent. So I'm here to tell you the truth about Manuela Gonzalez. Roll the intro. In 2008, 15 kilometers from Grenoble in the small town of Villars-Bono, Manuela and Daniel have been happily married for the last 18 years. But on the night of the 30th of October, everything will change. In the middle of a cornfield at around 3 a.m, a car stops and is engulfed with flames. There are two victims in the car. Halloween morning, Thierry takes his dog out for a walk as usual. On his route, he smells a strange odor, kind of burnt plastic and chemicals. He sees the burnt out car, and when he gets closer, he sees a body inside. But neither the body or the make of the car are recognizable. There is practically nothing left but the shell of the car and the skeleton of the body. So he calls the police. When they arrive, it is extremely difficult to determine what has exactly happened due to the extent of the damage the fire has caused. But the detectives managed to uncover that the car belongs to Daniel Cano, a 58-year-old metal worker from the area. All assumptions are that the body is Daniel's, but at this point in time, they can only speculate whether it was an accident or suicide or a murder. Then they find the second victim in the trunk. It's Daniel's stepdaughter's dog, a Labrador called Happy. They carefully begin to search through the ashes to find more clues, and they quickly discover a detail that will make things much clearer. 100 meters away from the location of the body lives Manuela Cano, Daniel's wife. And when the police tell her what has happened to Danielle, she breaks down. A psychological breakdown that is so extreme, she's rushed to hospital. And she stays in the psychiatric hospital for 15 days. Just before she's rushed to the hospital, the police manage to get a few bits of information. She is immediately convinced that her husband has committed suicide. It was only some months ago that his mother, Danielle's mother, had herself passed away, to whom he was extremely close. And it had been witnessed that over her grave he had stated he would join her very soon. This theory at first seems plausible to the investigators, but when they gather information from his other closest friends and family, none of them seem to think that this is something he would do. None of his inner circle were aware of his depression, and he even talked with great enthusiasm about the things he was planning on doing. The main thing looming was his long-awaited retirement. He had so many plans. He was going to go to Canada to go fishing and go searching for mushrooms in the forests, and he was a huge rugby fan. But the real thing that made investigators question the suicide theory was a small clue found at the crime scene. It was the Labrador, Happy, that was found in the trunk. Daniel was an animal lover. He always had dogs, and then he became fascinated with birds. He would spend hours with his animals. He would walk them all the time. He would even talk to them. I know I do that. I know you probably do that too. That's pretty normal for an animal lover. Categorically, he would never have burnt this dog alive. It is impossible. At Daniel's funeral, notably every one of his closest friends and family were devastated, crying non-stop. Everyone except Manuela. When each person rose to lay a candle in front of his coffin, she doesn't move. She seems kind of detached from the funeral, and everyone is finding it weird. When the coffin is lowered into the ground, everyone is present with the rest of the family except Manuela. She should have been on the front row. Only days after the shocking event had occurred, Daniel's son Nicholas goes to the family household to collect some of his father's tools. And there he sees Manuela with her sister and a couple other people, and she's talking about improvements she's going to make to the house, and she is happy. In fact, she's filling the whole house with laughter. Manuela is known for her bubbly and charismatic character. She's always laughing and smiling, so arguably we could say that this is a relatively normal characteristic for her. Only 1 month before, in September, Daniel was sleeping in his bedroom. He has, remember, just lost his mother, so he's going through the stages of grief and he decides to light a candle by the bed. The dog knocks over the candle and a fire breaks out. At around 3 a.m, the neighbors see it and call the fire brigade. So where is Manuela? Well, you'd be right in thinking that she wasn't in the bedroom. She was downstairs in the kitchen preparing some food. And when asked why she hadn't called the fire brigade, she states that she hadn't noticed there was a blazing fire in the house. Just to be clear, this is not a mansion, this is just a normal house. Firstly, people don't quite believe that Manuela is preparing food at 3 a.m. Or if they do believe that, they definitely don't believe that she just didn't notice there was a fire. Secondly, why didn't Daniel wake up? Well, there's a few theories about this too. After he's taken to hospital to be treated for his ailments from the fire, his son Nicholas goes to collect him in the morning at around 10:30 a.m. His son is kind of taken aback by the fact that he can barely walk, talk, and as soon as he's in the car, he falls asleep. Although there are several strange circumstances surrounding this first fire in the house, nobody questions it was anything other than an accident. Not even the insurance, and you can be sure that if they're not questioning it, nobody is. Only a couple days after the fire, Nicholas overhears a conversation between his father Daniel and his stepmother Manuela. His father states clearly that he knows there was no candle in the room that night. He's absolutely certain. During the autopsy of Daniel's body, it turns out that there are huge quantities of benzodiazepine. Daniel was someone who would never go to the doctor, never take medicine. The benzodiazepine that was found in his system had been prescribed to Manuela. She was notoriously insomniac. She could never sleep, and she would take them every night. So did Daniel take them in an attempt to take his own life? Or did someone give them to him? With growing suspicion that Manuela has a role to play in her husband's death, the police start doing some digging. Starting with her business, she had a successful driving school, but it had been shut down due to the fact that there had been fraudulent driver's licenses created and there was a touch of embezzlement. In May 2005, her business is shut down, her license is taken away, and she is forced to pay the government 50,000 euros. She has suddenly found herself in an extremely precarious financial situation. On top of that, the couple had a small gambling problem, and with that they had managed to accumulate rather large amounts of debts, maxing out credit cards from multiple companies. As a quick fix to their financial issues, they had decided to take out a loan of 165,000 euros with a special clause written into it. I think you know where this is going. If one of the two die, the loan will be paid off entirely. Ladies and gentlemen, where there is money, there is motive. But what is extra unusual about this loan is that Daniel didn't know about this special clause written into the loan agreement. In fact, he didn't even know about the loan. He finds out about it when he gets a call from one of the creditors to discuss an administrative detail. He is baffled. He tells them, listen, I don't have any loans, and they say, oh yes you do. The detectives run an analysis on the signatures on the documentation of the loans, and they discover Manuela has forged Daniel's signature. The couple begin to fight, and Daniel is so mad at Manuela that he brings into question divorce. It is not looking great for Manuela, but it is about to get a whole world worse. If you like crime or dogs, then you have my blessing to bash that subscribe button. It helps us enormously. Let's get back to the story. In Manuela's past, the police discovered that 5 of her ex-lovers either died or were hospitalized in the space of 25 years. Manuela was first married to a young lad called Gilbert in 1978, and together they had a baby girl called Virginie. 5 years into their relationship, in 1983, he falls into a coma. No investigation was opened, but during his stay in the hospital, multiple tests were done on him to discover why he had just fallen into a coma. They found in his system extremely high doses of one particular medicine. That very same medicine found in Daniel's body, benzodiazepine. After 3 months of being in a coma, he finally wakes up and he tells his family that he thinks he has been poisoned, and he thinks it was Manuela. He decides that for his safety, he needs to split up from Manuela, but he doesn't report the incident to the police. 1 year later, in 1984, Manuela starts dating a local jeweler named Michel Garcia. One day, the police are called into his store after he has suddenly toppled over and fallen unconscious after drinking a cup of tea. He is comatose for 24 hours. Once he awakens, they discover that his tea had been laced with a near fatal amount of morphine. This time, Michelle takes Manuela to court. Not only because Manuela had drugged him, but she had also robbed him of 12,000 euros. This time, the evidence is conclusive and she is found guilty, given a 2-year suspended sentence. Then, in 1989, Manuela meets Francois Calazo. He is the owner of a local bar. They fall madly in love, and Francois buys Manuela an apartment in Grenoble. Their relationship was passionate and dramatic, with heated arguments. Then one day, after a night of extremely heavy rainfall, his lifeless body is found in his garage in his car, suffocated by the exhaust fumes of the car. The autopsy here reveals that he had also taken huge amounts of medicine before allegedly locking himself in the car, but this incident is never questioned as anything other than a suicide. But all of this had happened in a diameter space of 25 kilometers, and people are beginning to talk about this string of unfortunate events surrounding Manuela. Then, in 1991, Manuela meets Thierry Le Chevalier. Thierry has recently divorced from his wife, but they are still on extremely good terms, and immediately his ex-wife tells him that he needs to be careful. She has heard all the rumors, including the one where she robbed the jewelry store. But it's complicated. It's her ex-husband and this is his new lover, and she doesn't want to be too pushy about the subject. After a couple months of dating, he opens up to his ex-wife about what's really going on in his relationship with Manuela. He's scared of Manuela, and he gets his ex-wife to promise that if anything ever happens to him, she will not stop until she uncovers the truth. Only a few days later, she receives a shocking phone call saying that he has committed suicide. She's blown away. She saw him just a couple days before and he did not seem at all suicidal. He was found burnt to death in a kind of closet with a whole bunch of empty bottles of alcohol around him. One of the investigators working on this case had, however, worked on one of Manuela's previous cases, and he suggests that motives other than suicide should definitely not be ruled out. So when they analyze the body, they find 0 traces of alcohol, but huge amounts of, say it with me, benzodiazepine. One troubling piece of information was that Thierry had withdrawn a large sum of money on the morning of the day he died. He had withdrawn 4,000 euros, which he was planning actually to give to Manuela as an official loan so she could open her driving school. An investigation is open and the police interrogate her intensely, trying to get a confession. But Manuela does not admit anything. She remains adamant that she is innocent. Well, they don't believe her for 1 second, and probably either do you, and either do I actually, and she is thrown in jail. But just before she landed herself in a jail cell, she had time to begin a new relationship with Daniel Cano, and he is going to be her ticket out of jail. Daniel gives Manuela an alibi. He alleges that he was with Manuela on the night of the fire, and so there is no way she could have done it. She is released. This case is classified as a homicide, but with not enough evidence to make a conviction. So now we have 2 people comatose and 3 dead. Is Manuela plagued with misfortune, or is she a serial killer? So back to 2008, Manuela is taken to prison, where she stays to this day, claiming her innocence. Her lawyers say that it is crazy to think that no other suspects were looked at in Daniel's case. Just Manuela, who was immediately the prime suspect, stating that Daniel was a known gambler who most likely had many debts to pay off. And these debt collectors do not mess around. Yet this has never been explored. Her sister and daughter remain 100% confident that she is innocent. One last thing that remains a mystery in this case is the loan. 165,000 euros. Where is it? Nobody knows. It has gone. Manuela states that the night of Daniel's murder, there had been a break-in at the house and their safe had been robbed. But there is such little evidence suggesting that this is true. So where is the money? Now, I have a couple theories about this, but let me know what you think in the comments. More recently, in 2016, Manuela's lawyers put forward an appeal, which was refused. She remains in jail to this day. Let me know what you think. Did she do it, or is she unfortunate? That is all for this week, and if you have made it this far, I thank you so much for watching, and if you need more, then I urge you to click on some of these other videos that we have done. And until the next time, merci, bisous, à la prochaine.